Hello, I'd like to talk about some potential benefits of mental illness and just shine some light on mental illness. I'm reading from notes and I hope you enjoy. Life with mental illness is very difficult, especially if you have multiple conditions. But there could be a lot of benefits in having bipolar and schizophrenia. My name is Cale and I am a bipolar schizophrenic patient with ADD, autism, and perhaps a bunch more undiagnosed conditions. I would like to discuss the benefits of schizophrenia and bipolar because it is often assumed that mental illness only causes problems. It can be difficult enough to deal with one condition, but multiple diseases can make life unmanageable for some people. Some research has even suggested that creativity may stem from various genetic components which are identified as certain mental illnesses. Studies are showing that these disorders could potentially benefit patients who have the mental ability to see things in new ways. My interest in this subject is tenfold since my mother was diagnosed bipolar, yet she worked hard throughout her life to become a fantastic, wise and caring parent, just as her grandmother was. Just as her mother was, just like my grandmother was. Around 10% of people with bipolar will commit suicide, but many patients desire to live because they see their lives as worthwhile. People who are diagnosed with schizophrenia often appear very different than what society would consider normal behavior. When I was younger, my mother would sometimes say things that didn't make sense and she would act in strange ways. She always tried to take care of me when this happened, however, it made it difficult for her family. Eventually, she received treatment and the change has helped our relationship significantly, but there was no doubt that I picked up on some of her issues at a young age, despite my parents' best efforts to shield me from them. My mental illness was manifested through years and years of drug abuse and pursuing a delusion that I thought to be spiritual. It was almost fated that I would be diagnosed with mental illness at the end of my teenage years. As you can imagine, life is not easy for a bipolar patient, especially someone who is undiagnosed or someone who fails to take their medications as prescribed. Symptoms can make a person appear strange to others or even cause them to behave erratically. I have been locked up in an emergency room many times because of my mental state, either from psychosis, manic episodes, or simply from lack of sleep. In the end, it was always the right thing for me, since it gave me a chance to recuperate and then begin taking medications, as well as going to psychiatrists and other mental health sessions and appointments so that I could learn how to cope with mental illness. For those who don't understand why people have issues with schizophrenia and other forms of mental illness, there are several important reasons why this is so. Not knowing what will happen next, the need to feel control, and even hearing voices. The first reason is that it can be difficult to know what will happen next, and this inevitably causes stress and anxiety. Not knowing whether or not one will have a psychotic break from reality at any moment can be detrimental for those experiencing psychosis. Schizophrenia can create very bizarre behaviors which oftentimes cause problems with relationships, job performance, schoolwork, etc. The second reason is that humans desire to feel in control of their lives because it helps them to avoid discomfort. When you take away someone's self-control by making them completely dependent, they often become agitated or display unreasonable anger or hostility towards others. The third reason is the most obvious. Sometimes people hear voices after they are diagnosed with schizophrenia. How can one benefit from having bipolar disorder? Many people enjoy listening to music or participating in activities that allow them to let their creative juices flow. A lot of bipolar disorder is thought to be hereditary, which means that many artists may have this mental disorder behind the scenes without anyone else knowing it. People who have bipolar disorder may feel lucky since they know that there are others out there who experience things far worse than what they go through daily. The best thing for me has been getting proper treatment so I can manage my coping skills better and create an environment where I can do some of the things I love most, yet still take care of myself so I don't overextend myself. Writing, reading, and working on the computer are all activities I enjoy doing, so I use them to relax when I'm not feeling well enough to do anything else. Some of the most notable benefits that patients with bipolar disorder or schizophrenia could enjoy are the enhanced creativity that their conditions can provide for them if they choose to pursue careers in various artistic fields. Some people say that taking medication helps them to become more creative since it allows their brains to work normally instead of being high one moment and low the next. This may be true since having bipolar disorder or schizophrenia could involve experiencing both mania, feeling like you're great, and depression, feeling like nothing matters, at different times. Several things could be done to help people who are bipolar or schizophrenic patients. One could learn how to cope with mental illness by looking at several different sources, like books and websites, which share coping skills for people who are living with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, panic disorders, anxiety disorders, for example. One can also, try writing in a journal whenever they feel overwhelmed, so that it allows them to get out their feelings when they're upset without having an outburst. Manic episodes don't always have to lead to bad things either, since many bipolar sufferers have created some of the most amazing pieces of art in history during their manic periods. Find ways that you could create some time to do what you love if you have a serious condition like bipolar disease or schizophrenia, since it may help you feel happier and more fulfilled. Learning how to use your creativity healthily could help you get through the terrible moments that life has dealt you, since it forces I've lost my way. No, I've lost my where I was up to on the page. I should have written this in paragraphs. The benefits that people with bipolar disorder or schizophrenia receive are relatively unknown, which is why more awareness needs to be raised about these conditions. Many would benefit greatly by finding out how much they could enjoy having their illness, since it allows them to create new things that wouldn't be possible if they didn't have bipolar or schizophrenia. Developing coping mechanisms, finding ways to center yourself, and enjoying what you're good at while also taking care of yourself can allow you to flourish as a person with mental illness. Not only this, but it could help other people by showing them the positive sides of having bipolar or schizophrenia, which is almost always overlooked. So that's an article that I'm working on that may or may not be released. But I just wanted to make this video to shed some light on potential benefits of, it's not finished, but some potential benefits of bipolar and schizophrenia, for example. A lot of people kill themselves because of their illness. It's a mind virus, so the neural pathways aren't connected properly, or the chemicals are too imbalanced. In my case, I have both. I have both bipolar and schizophrenia, which is quite a concoction. It's crazier than any drug, I realize now. It's like a drug that lasts a lifetime, and 1 minute in this trip that this drug provides, you could be high and happy as a kite, flying and flowing in the wind, thinking you can do anything in life and you're the best, to feeling like you're very small, life isn't worth living, and you want to kill yourself. That's the spectrum of what bipolar and mania is. Manic depression is the most horrible thing that I've experienced. I've done things like cut myself when I'm having episodes of manic depression. I haven't done that for like 3 or 4 years, but that's something that happens. Self-harm. With schizophrenia, you hallucinate, you hear voices. Voice isn't a predominant thing in my illness with schizophrenia, but I have all the other symptoms like disorganized speech, disorganized thinking, hallucinations. I've heard voices before, but only when I'm really unwell. And I've been medicated for a long time, so I keep a lot of that under control. But there's only so much medications can do. There's only so much. Medications help the symptoms, not the illness. So you're still going to have manic episodes while you're medicated. They're just not going to be as intense and frequent. And it might be more like a wave going like this rather than like this. It's the craziest. Life with mental illness is the craziest thing that I've experienced even before I knew that I had mental illness. When I was a kid, I used to hallucinate, and there was one hallucination I had when I was really young, maybe like 5 or 6, where the room was just covered, the whole floor was covered in spiders, like as big as my hand, bigger than my hand, just thousands of spiders. It was like a floor of spiders, and that was a really crazy hallucination. But with if you're hallucinating and you write a song, this is one of the benefits of having the illness. If you're hallucinating and you write a song, that hallucination is going to inform what the song's about. If you're having delusions with bipolar, that's going to inform what the song's about. I bet you there's millions of artists in the world who have these illnesses who don't come out and say it, because why would they? That's their personal thing. That's their story. They don't have to share everything. But, you know, the fact that I have this illness and the way my brain works and the concoction of conditions I have inside my head, the way my perception on reality is, I could believe one thing one day and the next believe something completely different. I can attach myself onto so many different ideas and ideologies so constantly, that it's hard for me to know what my truth is. But I have a good foundation in terms of my truth now, and that's just been through picking parts and coming up with my own spirituality. Because spirituality is your own thing. It can be whatever you want it to be. I learnt that from KDHD Hat Kid, the little kid that when he was like 16 made that video on the fourth dimension and explained the fourth dimension, and then like disappeared for a long time. He's a very unique character, and he has autism and schizoaffective disorder. People wonder why I call myself schizophrenic and bipolar instead of schizoaffective, because schizoaffective is like schizophrenia with the symptoms of bipolar in it. And I saw a psychiatrist for about 5 years, and this psychiatrist made it pretty known to me that my symptoms were displaying as schizophrenic and bipolar, a conjunction of two illnesses rather than one illness. Schizoaffective. It was more schizophrenic and bipolar. So this has been a video to get you some insight into my head, and I'll make more in the future. I've never really come out publicly like this and said it so intensely and clearly. Yeah, but now I'm saying it, so I'm making it known. I hope you enjoy yourselves out in the world and keep on creating and being good to each other. Never take anyone or anything for granted. You are loved by me and the universe. I love you. Cale out. Bye now.